Goodbye, world. All right, well, LNL is now going to be opening up here on the attack, and what you can expect to see Sugar Free moving in on here is almost certainly a Genji, where he plays an early Genji, wraps around the side, and very often will get a full Dragon Blade off the very beginning. I mean, he's showing Sombra here, but do I actually believe it? No. We'll see, though.
It's not out of the question, but why would you? And yeah, he had a great Genji game on King's Row on the offense. Of course, Genji plays so well here on Anubis. Like, this map is basically designed for dive. There's so many high grounds that you can go ahead and dislodge people from. On the side of GGEA, they are going to go for the double sniper composition. So they got Fisher, of course, on the Hanzo, Keller on the Widowmaker. We'll see if they can try and really nail down Sugar Free on the Genji.
Well, the lack of belief that he would be going Sombra has paid off, because this is a bread and butter, right? Where LNL, they're going to go up the front, Sugar Free is going to take this left approach, and his main goal is going to be pressuring the Widowmaker and Mercy in the back.
Yeah, caught with the case of the Black Lung there as as Sugar Free was caught out by that Widowmine. Of course, that gives you vision too, so he didn't want to make his approach known. Keller now jumps on over to the opposite end, trying to keep himself safe from the dive of LNL.
Keller holding in the back right now, looking for the Widow on the other side, and it takes glancing shot to the other end, has to back up. Meanwhile, you see Sugar Free has worked his way all the way around. The LNL dive is coming in, and this is how you want to dive the setup. Gets free damage on the Keller, but they lose decaught immediately. However, both Winston's out of the fray. It's 5-on-5. Sugar Free at a monstrous 73% on his Dragon Blade so far. Gets good use out of the deflect, 85%. He is so close to what might as well be a death timer right now for GGEA. 94 now for Sugar Free. Deflect kill onto Bull, and this is actually an even worse scenario. He's gonna fish things out and doesn't have to use the blade. That means he'll have it for the next push.
Now they do finally have their Winston back in play due GG Esports, and so Smurf has created a window of opportunity for them, but with the deflect, Sugar Free will finish off Smurf. Now, what happened in that last fight, as of course LNL will take this and move on to point B, is that while they did trade away for Winston's, Smurf died on the low ground, meaning there was almost no way, Smurf died on the low ground, which meant there was almost no way for A to try and get that resurrection off, while decaught was brought back into that. And so they couldn't cycle Vol and Smurf back and forth between the two of them onto the low ground trying to contest the point, which allowed LNL just to apply pressure on them repeatedly.
All right, Enlar now on the Brigitte swap, but the big story here is Sugar Free, who has the blade, but Gray got the Transcendence up just in time, and Sugar Free's day is ruined! The immediate counter built by Gray, getting that Transcendence up so very quickly. Dogman transcends, but it's just far too late to make any form of difference. The quick Dragon Blade dream is done, and now we might be seeing Sugar Free swap the Pharah. Oftentimes he does for this map, but not always.
Yeah, GGEA just have the perfect answers, right? Of course, there's the Transcendence, and of course, they've also got the huge Fly Swatter and the Brigitte to deal with the Genji, that pest, as he tries to dive in. Sugar Free, though, still fancies his chances with this Genji. Hasn't swapped off quite yet. Nope. Here we go. We got the Hanzo once again in effect for him.
All right, so this is a little bit of a change from what we've seen from him at times, where he is feeling the Hanzo. We've seen Pharah in these situations before, but instead going to be looking for pickoffs, and the Dragon Strike, of course, can be very effective at splitting a team, but Smurf has the Primal Rage, and that to him is a ticket to be as aggro as possible. Already going to be putting LNL in a corner here. GGA attacking from both sides. Next holding on to the self-destruct, but the Dragon Strike comes on in, splits Nex off into the corner, and it's all hands on deck for GGA as they dive on in.
Yeah, they continually work themselves into even worse corner. They're actually at the spawn of GGEA with nowhere to go at all whatsoever. And so, great discipline coming out from GGEA. They only use the Dragon along with the Primal Rage there, controlling all of LNL. So now they're going to have a lot of tools at their disposal. They've got the Rally for Keller along with the Self-Destruct. Buy time for Fisher to get another Dragon Strike, who's already at 46%.
L&L, meanwhile, they have a rally of their own that is ready to go, and they do have Transcendence in reserve. It's just, I do wonder how aggressive they want to be. One thing they could do here is that Sugar Free might just open up here with the Dragon, and then they'll rush on in. Both support ults are up. This is a window, perhaps. Although Sugar Free, under assault in the back, he's gonna fall, Smurf the assassin, and now L&L, they can't invest anything else into this, or it would be quite bad.
Yep, that's the Valkyrie, that's the rally. 2 big ultimates gone for L&L. They should just go ahead and call this a loss. But Sugar Free's gonna go ahead and use the Dragon into this, but it's Keller coming up with a double kill now, as they are just cleaning up all of L&L. Now they're left with 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Still plenty of time to try and get any progress here onto the point.
I don't think L&L was on the same page there at all. If they were, we would have seen Dogman transcend to cover the res, and we would have seen Nex use a self-destruct. They used half their ultimates to very little effect, and that's because of the opening that Smurf had, where he just dropped in on the threat and took him down, and now Sugar Free is swapping the Zarya.
That was kind of weird. Like, Sugar Free sees the Winston barrier fall on him, and he tries to melee it, bat it away, and then it looks like he just gave up on life. But now there we go, Smurf goes for that same play here. We have Nex going in with a self-destruct, and it connects onto Keller, so now they do have a man advantage, but they might be able to get a res off to keep him alive.
Gray's gonna transcend here in a moment. Smurf is really low. Gray, where are you at? He gets Smurf just in time. Smurf was so low, and now he's so high. He has all the health he needs. Fisher gets the Dragon Strike on the other end, and that was perfectly timed by Gray. If he was even a second slower, this could have been a very, very different team fight.
So L&L, they've got to go ahead and just dust it all clean and start all over again. And later swapping now over to the Pharah. Take a look. Throughout that fight, though, Sugar Free had just swapped off onto Zarya, already at 70% towards his ultimate. So he will have possibly that Graviton Surge for the next fight, and they can just go ahead and combine it with Decod's Earth Shatter. They have a lot of huge ultimates, controlling ultimates to use here. Wonder if they can get the bigger bang combo with Nexus self-destruct.
We'll see. I know Dogman built up the Transcendence real quickly, and he's gonna try and take advantage window, and an Earth Shatter by Decod, knocks down 3. That's why Dogman used the Transcendence. L&L immediately moving to take advantage of Decod's strike, and L&L might have everything they need now to take this point. Enlar gonna be the first to fall, but they're still working with a 5-man advantage. Sugar Free has the Graviton, which could be the sealer, pulls in 2. Aiden Gray supports with nowhere to go. You hate to see that kind of thing happen. Meanwhile, you look at Smurf. Smurf actually could buy them the time they need. It's Primal Rage late into the fight, dancing to and fro. Has he bought the time needed? Fisher can drop the Dragon Strike here. Smurf's finally gonna fall, but GGEA is back in.
This is huge. With Dogman gone now, their TTK goes down drastically. That Orb of Discord was so helpful for them, but now they are almost back in 4-force. Are the defense. Vol taking out next. Gray was finally answered in exchange, and oh my gosh, Ajax somehow playing Ring Around the Rosie with that Lucio, gets the kill onto Fisher, but it's slowly going in favor of the defense. Vol's bomb might change things as they do get the D-Mech onto Vol.
Smurf has bought GGA an opportunity, but they haven't quite cashed in yet. Keller working the outskirts, picks off 2. That should be it. GGEA holding L&L off. And L&L now down to their final 30 seconds. What a heroic stall by Smurf to set that all up. And here's the better part for him. He almost has Primal again.
Dogman swapped over to Moira to try to get back in time for this fight. So that means he is getting close to that Coalescence. He's already at 51%. We'll see if he has enough healing to outlast all the damage coming out. Coalescence, though, comes out from the opposite end from Aid now, as they just want to try and keep people off, but it's Endlayer starting it all off. Keller gone, Gray gone, L&L. They have an opportunity.
And this could be it. They get the first 2 kills they need. Can they get a little bit more? Endlar lays in the Pulse Bomb. Smurf, though, Primal Rage again, somehow got on the Dogman in the fray, and the tank line of GGEA acting as the bouncers, keeping L&L well off their point. And now it's looking like L&L will have to be satisfied with 51.6% as we move into the next round. GGEA holds strong.
Maybe if Sugar Free had held onto that Graviton Surge that had connected onto both the Zenyatta and the Mercy, they could have used it to keep the Winston grounded, right? I mean, a lot of teams do kind of like to do that. They trade the Primal Rage Winston for the Graviton Surge to secure that so that, you know, he's not that wild card in the back line. Because twice, Smurf was able to get onto Dogman and take him out of the fray. And that is a huge pickoff for GGEA.
GGA definitely in a good spot here on Anubis, where they would be looking to go up 2-1. And if all they need to do here is simply go forward and capture point B. Of course, it is Temple of Anubis, it is an assault map, and as a result, that's not always guaranteed. We see teams hold on point B more often than any other map type. And so far for LNL, Sugar Free has been a wild card that's definitely stymied GGA more than not. But also, I would just note, assault maps do tend to trend a little bit more towards the generally more well-prepared team in terms of how you have to organize your final attack. And LNL doesn't have an org behind them, GGA does, so that could be a difference when looking at how teams handle this final fight.
And looking at the defense for LNL, it looks very similar to their Kings Row composition. I think it is actually their Kings Row composition on defense, with the Orisa and D.Va, along with the Widowmaker, and of course Sugar Free on the Junkrat. Much rather, of course, see him again on Hanzo, but with the narrow corridors and the space that you can't control with the Junkrat, you can't knock just the absolute power he holds here.
Junkrat, very, very strong on first point assault maps. Anubis, no exception to that. The only thing of note here, though, is that it means that Sugar Free is going to have to shoulder quite a bit of a burden on himself, and Lara is unable to get early pickoffs. Meanwhile, for GGA, they are going to be opening with this early Sombra, so this does make sense. But it's also interesting to see Fisher not use the Sombra after all. Goes to Genji after all.
Next level trolls on ya, Zeeps. As he runs out and then runs right back in to make the swap off. No, they might have actually seen something different. You know, they just want to dive, right? They've got the Widowmaker behind the Orisa shield. They need full dive here. They can't rely upon a Sombra to really try and deal with that. It's much better, much more potent to have that Genji in there.
And Lar holding him back as Widowmaker. Fisher going to the back line as Genji, and this is where you see Genjis here early on, right? Where the goal isn't even necessarily getting early pickoff. The goal is to build a blade. But then if you have an opportunity, you go for it. So he's going to dive in right with Smurf at the right time. And they get Sugar Free. Keller for the triple threat off the ground, finishing with the Genji and Winston start. And it's a well-coordinated push for GGA that has LNL running for the hills to a degree.
But they have traded away. Gray, Smurf, and Fisher all gone now as Decon picks up 2 for himself on the Orisa. You don't see that often. He's got the Fortify to keep himself all healthy there. The damage mitigation coming up huge for them now. An end layer. The controller of the high ground here. Pulse Bomb comes out. It's not enough. Vol will finally get rid of Decon, but might have just done enough for this defense.
Well, the problem that they have here is that the offense is coming back in rather quickly, but with the resurrection of the decod, that seals something that could have been a problem for them. It's difficult for Orisa to get set back up again. Now, because they were able to get that res off in time, decod can set back up, and Dogman should have a Transcendence up, so LNL just barely pulling themselves out of the fire there.
I mean, things look great for GGEA, right? They got onto Sugar Free, got rid of that threat, and then from there, things fell apart. They just kind of stood in front of Decod, where he was able to just mow them all down with his primary fire. As it looks like, ooh, speaking of Decod, we do have a pause. It looks like it was a DC on his end.
Yep, man down there, and that's actually a fairly big blow for LNL here, because when you do come back in the game off a disconnect, you don't get back in where you were at. He's back at the spawn point, so look, from the other team's perspective, you will be looking at that as a bit of a power play where, you know, if we engage right now, they only have 5 people.
Right. Do you think that's like a total game changer here, or do you think that they can come back from it?
It's a definite game changer. I think GGA going back in, they'd be foolish if they didn't immediately rush in. Now, it does mean they could get overconfident and not engage the way they normally would, and as a result, give up an early pickoff and not win the fight. But certainly, it's a tough thing for LNL, the game plan around here, where look, they're going to have to take the raw 6v5.
Yeah, and I think the margin of error is like very low for LNL on defense there, because one tick, I believe, was already secured by GGEA, so that doesn't give them that much time to try and kite back a little bit, buy time to for Decod to swap off probably onto Winston and try and jump in. I don't think they have an opportunity to come in as a full 6-man for this defense now, so it's really unfortunate.
So what do you think the strategy is going to have to be to maybe possibly hold the defense and pull this out?
Pocket the hell out of Sugar Free. You give him the damage boost, you let him loose.
Yeah.
And pray that the other team messes up at some point, where, you know, it is a game that 2 teams play at the same time. You don't always need a heroic play on your end. Sometimes you just need a boneheaded play from the other team, and that can be good enough. And hey, sometimes there's hubris in these situations where a team, again, gets a little bit overconfident, goes too ham at trying to take advantage of the 6v5, and then as a result, they lose 2 people, and it flips back the other way.
Right, but you can't just sit back and wait always, because then you could just end up screwing yourself. So
Exactly.
Yeah. So either they just try to go for the heroic 5v6, or they all just back away right now, let go of point A, and then hold on for point B. So it's such a difficult call. And, you know, this is just kind of what happens when you have, like, online tournaments. This is the nature of the beast. You know, things like this happen. So it's really unfortunate. But you just have to dust yourself off and move forward, you know, just go with the punches.
One thing that's worth noting here, too, which could be rather bad for LNL, is that if they do try and hold with 5 people, there is a world where GGA just easily wins a team fight, builds up a whole boatload of ultimates in the process, and then they can just slam point B being completely fully charged. So there is a risk for LNL if they decide to try and hold on to this in a 5-man setup, because if they get clean swept, they're very unlikely to hold point B right after, and that could be the map outright.
Right. So that's why Decod swaps over to Torbjorn, sets up the turret. You know, never expect it. They'll never see it coming.
They'll never see that coming. Well, speaking of Decod, let's talk about the first round and those Reinhardt plays, right? I mean, we saw some fantastic moves. Oh, and we have a replay right here.
Yeah, I mean, this really harkens back to, like, older Overwatch, where Ryan and Zarya were, like, dominant forces, and you had, of course, your Lucio and McCree's coming in, so you would just, like, speed boost in, you would get a flashbang in, and then you go for the hammer, but instead it was just, of course, the speed boost in along with the decod hammer and just caught them all off guard. It was a great play for them. They had all the rest of the follow-ups, but I feel like they might have overcommitted on trying to get, afterwards, sugar-free with that Graviton Surge onto both the Zenyatta and the Mercy there. They might have been able to get those kills converted without the Graviton.
Well, in that play, I think it's very important to look at how that was set up, right? Where the prelude to all of that was that you had Smurf in the back line, sniping out people one after the other, being a very, very highly aggressive Winston. But the problem that you have there is that you now have your main tank that is basically being this backline assassin, and there was no one there that really interrupt or get in Decod's face, where he just happened to be right place, right time, sees 3 people without a shield and goes, yeah, I guess I'm going to press Q right now. So that's kind of the, anytime you see someone like Smurf go to the backline like that and get player after player after player, well, that is the dark side, right? Is that he's not actually protecting the backline. He's just hoping that he's going to do enough damage that they get something good before a decod could get to the back and shatter 3 dudes.
Do you think that both of these teams are playing at their fullest right now, or do you think maybe their foot's a little bit off the gas pedal and we have a little more to see from them?
I mean, GGA is looking dull right now because they don't have Sharp.
Right.
As it goes. And you can't understate the impact that Sharp has on GGA, where, look, I mean, we could talk about their good tank line. I mean, Smurf has been very impressive, but the reality is that you go and ask any other Contenders team, as mentioned earlier, it's like, who are you afraid of on GGA or Optic when we were asking those questions? Like, Sharp.
Yeah.
Everyone is terrified of Sharp, and he's not in this game right now. And we saw from how Sugar Free coming in transformed LNL. It's a similar thing for GGA, so they're kind of playing without one of their key powerhouses.
Right.
It definitely is really unfortunate that Sharp's not in this game right now. He was such a treat to behold when we were watching him on LAN, and really going up against Zachary and Who Are You. Kind of like 2v1 in a lot of situations, as like in carry situations. It was really impressive to see. But you know, Keller, Fisher, they've been doing a decent job, and I think Keller now going over to Brigitte really has helped them out, especially in trying to deal with Sugar Free a bit. But it's slowly getting to the point where it looks like Sugar Free is about to be like just free reign once again.
Well, one thing that's worth noting in regards to the GGA DPS situation is that Keller was more at home being a hit scan DPS. He ended up flexing to projectile DPS as a last-minute change because there was a lot of roster shuffling in the Contenders scene going into Season 1, and originally the Optic roster was going to be a team that involved Stratus with Keller on hit scan, and then that changed last minute where Stratus ends up getting signed by NRG, Sharp comes in last minute for Optic at the time, and Keller's just like, okay, I guess I have to learn how to projectile. So it's not like entirely out of the realm of possibility that he could do well in hit scan because that used to be his thing, but it is sort of adapting to it more last minute right now.
Do you think that without Sharp playing, this could be a trial by fire for a new star of GGEA, or is this just Sugar Free wiping the floor while their star player is out?
I think it's a good showing or a good time to show off what you have, especially for Contender Season 2 if you're any DPS. But as soon as Sharp is back available, you have to imagine we're going to be seeing Sharp play in most matches because he has been that important to that team.
It was an entire season where he was basically carrying with his Tracer play all of Season 1 Contenders. His Tracer was just dominating left and right and, you know, really gave Zachary a run for his money when they played in Group B. So, honestly, it's unfortunate that he's not playing today, but again, we have to talk about the players that are here. Sugar Free doing a good job, and just before that, of course, Smurf has been doing an amazing job on the Winston, although there was that one flub where he left his team completely open in the Reinhardt shadow. But beyond that, you know, Smurf, he's been abusing these angles with the Winston. It's really akin to, I would say, like Miro, back when like Miro really brought Winston into vogue, especially here on Anubis. So it's great to see that. I
mean, look, when it comes to tanks and contenders, point blank, there's Panker and there's Smurf, and then there's everyone else. Those two tanks, Panker of Gladiators and Smurf of GGA, they are the deadliest Winstons that end up with the most ridiculous pickoffs of any other tank players within the current competition. So it's not surprising to be seeing Smurf do this. It won't be surprising to see Panker do this when Gladiators play later in the night. So it's just very good Winston play that we see, but both players also quite good on their Reinhardts as well.
And a small update for everybody out there. We are just a few minutes out. The players are getting back together, but we still have definitely more to talk about strategies, especially on Anubis. Have we been seeing what you're used to seeing on Anubis? Have you seen something that surprised you so far?
Well, I like that they instantly made that change on the side of GGEA to go for the full dive to deal with Sugar Free, because it worked, right? He was the first one to go down on the defense. And then from there, that's where it kind of all faltered. It looked like communication issues because generally with the kind of dive offense like that, you want to move from target to target and dismantle them one by one really quickly. Instead, they just completely fell apart and died to, of all things, in Orisa, who generally has, you know, a hard time killing a lot of things in quick succession. So that was odd.
I would say the bigger shift is the idea that, and it's not that surprising, like I don't think anything that we saw was truly a surprise, but you do have the play of Sugar Free where he used to go far a lot more frequently on point B, and he decides, actually, I'm going to go Hanzo. I think both pretty viable there, but still a little bit different than expected.
All right, well, now it is time to get back into it and see if LNL can pull things off.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you cannot get your player back in the allotted time, you have to continue to play. So that's why DCOD is not back into this. So now LNL are completely in the back foot here. It's a 6v5 in favor of GG Esports. We're going to go ahead and pop both Valkyries.
This is Smurf's, like, best day ever. He gets to play main tank against a team without a main tank. This is all sorts of bad for LNL, where they weren't able to get their friend or teammate back in. Sugar Free still is able to take down Fisher, and oh my goodness, they might be taking this 5-on-6 right now, but Sugar Free is out of the fight. There is no resurrection available for him. Smurf still somehow alive, and LNL actually going to hold here from the looks of it on the 5v6. Now, the problem is attrition's even worse when you're down a player, and Ajax is in a whole world of trouble, but he's able to get away with the smallest of margins.
Yeah, LNL though,
not anymore.
They won the 6v5, but it was at a cost, and the cost was every single one of their ultimates. So, you know, that's how strong ultimates are. They help you win 6v5s. But that means that they don't have any coming into the next defense. Endler has now swapped off onto the Brigitte, so they're going triple support. As weird as this sounds, but I'm sorry, this is how the rules work. One DPS and one off tank in next on the Diva.
All right, GGEA working on a true 6-on-5 advantage. No pickoffs required. Gray loaded up with the Transcendence. And LNL will see what they can do to try and fight back against this. They have the Emergency May, who's emergency dead immediately as Fisher finds Dogman right away. And gonna be a bit of an anticlimactic end here as GGEA easily runs over LNL 5v6.
May gets out of cryo freeze. You woke me up for this. An arrow to the face and a 6v5. Yeah, unfortunate, but them's how they roll. Sorry, guys. It's in the rule book. But yeah, it's really unfortunate because DCOD was kind of a staple for them, and he was huge for them. He was quite pivotal to their defense of point A there up until he disconnected.
And it was kind of sad to see that, like you were saying, they were doing so well and just, I mean, they fought hard, though. Yeah. They did really try, and I thought maybe for a second that they would pull something off, but the numbers don't lie. You can't really win a permanent 5v6, can you?
I mean, you could if you were just really outclassing the other team.
Sugar-free try.
If you clone Sugar-Free 4 more times and it's just a team of Sugar-Free, then maybe.
It's a possibility, but realistically speaking, you're not going to get that level of skill gap between teams and contenders. I mean, even the teams that are towards the lower end, they will be able to win 6-on-5s. And also, you think about who's your actual glue to the team. Main tank is pretty high on the list. If they had lost the DPS, maybe they could have gone for longer. But you lose your main tank, you're pretty much done.
500, 600 HP gone. I mean, you know, they soak up a lot, right? And that's not even the potential of damage that they can soak up because, of course, you have the pockets of the heals coming in. Just having that Orisa there means that he could have easily soaked up effectively 1,200, 1,500, a lot of damage before anything happened. So it's really unfortunate that things did work out that way.
So let's talk a little bit about Fisher. Do you think that he may be the ace player for GGE EA?
I mean, I think it's too early to say that. We know that Fisher is a very, very good player, though, and I mean, it's not a bad showing for him here so far in the projectile DPS slot, where I'd say he's probably stronger projectile DPS than Keller was last season.
Yeah, and I don't think he's had as many opportunities to really try and show his stuff because it has largely been either the tank line coming out from either side or Sugar-Free really stealing the show here. And then, of course, there were moments where M-Layer was really going off in Keller. So Fisher really not in the limelight quite yet, but he is the newest addition to the team. He is the newest cog being added in to the works there. So I'm sure there's still a lot of development for him. And, you know, we still have map 4, so we'll see.
Right. And do you think that despite Sugar-Free being the heavy hitter on LNL, that with this next win, GGEA might feel invigorated and really show their all and take this map?
I mean, they have a mulligan here for sure, where no matter what, they can go to map number 5. Again, I don't know what the situation with Sharp is, if he's even being considered to play, but in theory now, a 5th and tie-breaking map would be held on East if they wanted it, which means they could get Sharp in for that extra power on control if they even felt they needed it. But they also won the very first control map, so I don't know if they really need to change anything up. Certainly, it's a lot more pressure on LNL.
And as we go on to Route 66, what can we expect to see from each team? What are you hoping to see? What might surprise us?
Well, Route 66, I mean, I'd say this is a map where if you're going to be flexing your fire muscle, you definitely see it on point A. But just the same, you could still decide to stick with the Hanzo for a player like Sugar-Free. So both teams, they have pretty credible fire options, and certainly I think we're going to be seeing Widow on both sides as well.
Yeah, projectile's very strong on this map, right? So you can play the Hanzo, you can play the Pharah, you can play the Junkrat. It all works out here. We can even go full dive Tracer Genji if you really want to. I mean, this is really an exciting patch right now. It's kind of infuriating at times to try and play main tank because you're just getting batted around by everyone and everything melts you. I do not envy people who play Reinhardt or Winston because it is one of the toughest tasks so far. But in terms of like DPS, you can play almost anything.
And talking about specific strategies from each team, what do you think for LNL and for GGEA they will utilize and really drive home to try and take this map?
Well, again, I think that this is a map where if you want to run a Pharah, you can run a Pharah. You want to run a Hanzo, you can run a Hanzo. I mean, how you handle the first point is pretty up in the air. One thing, actually, that we probably will see from the GGA side, or at least they're very fond of, is running Gray on Sombra, right? Where you can very easily run a Sombra on first point, where Sombra on first point, Route 66, has generally been a staple of the map for many teams that can run a good Sombra. And look, Gray is a passionate Sombra player. It's one of his best played heroes. He's had very good moments with it. Known a little bit less for it nowadays with the rise of Zen being played with everything and anything, but Sombra is still very much an option.
Yeah, for LNL, I'm really looking to see them kind of just like forego on defense, point A and point B, and really nail it on point C, kind of similar to what we saw on Kings Road, just because they're going to want to rely upon, if we have Decod back, Decod on that Reinhardt again. And, you know, point C is where Reinhardt basically just plays best on this map. And so that's what I'm expecting out of LNL.
I know it's really hard to predict, but do you think there might be any circumstances where we'll see something ridiculous like a full hold or something like that? I
mean, I don't think a full hold on Route 66 is ridiculous at all. We see it more so than a lot of other escort maps where, especially if a team can get into a Sombra rhythm, or just, I mean, ult economy falling to the wayside, the way an offense has to attack in is such that we've seen defenses being able to use a train of first very effectively, and a team that can't really do a good dive towards the top, or a team that can't get around constantly consistent EMP cycling, oftentimes will get held at first.
Yeah, I feel like this is just going to be kind of a repeat of what happened on King's Row, just because kind of similarities in how this map works, where Reinhardt becomes very strong in the third. But again, we do have to add in the added threat of possibly Gray on the Sombra coming out, and she's really good at dealing with tanks and tanks who really rely upon their abilities. So maybe the Reinhardt might get a little bit distracted by the hacker.
All right. Well, I know that I'm excited to see some Sombra play if that is going to happen, because we haven't seen any. So we are about to go into this game. We are 2-1. Let's see if it goes to a 5th map.
And there it is, off on the GGA side. It's going to be Gray hacking things once more. It does mean that there won't be a Zenyatta in play, but it does mean that there is that possibility of a first point hold being held for GGEA. And also, you take a look at LNL and how they're setting up here once more. It's got to be a bit demoralizing after how the last map ended. I do wonder if they're going to be able to pick themselves up and deal with what could be a pretty fearsome first point defense from GGA.
Yeah, so solo support with Gray on the Sombra, and remember, this is Sombra that doesn't get any ultimate charge off of healing from health packs, but still, she's got the tighter spread on her machine pistol, and it does a lot of damage, right? So he is going to be deadly here if he gets in the back line. And of course, EMP onto Dogman, and Dogman should just melt here. But LNL are looking to go full dive once again. Sugar-free, D-Cut, along with Nex on the Genji, D.Va, and Winston respectively, trying to dislodge GG Esports from the high ground.
I mean, really, I take a look at this offense, and it's more like D-Cod is the sacrificial vehicle to give Sugar-Free some space. Fully expect D-Cod to be falling earlier in fights, but Sugar-Free to be running wild. At least that's how LNL is going to try and run it. Sugar-Free, not going to be finding much in the way of health packs, though, early on.
Yeah, it's going to be so difficult to try and play this Genji with all the zone control that the Sombra provides for GG Esports, but he can always come back. Hopefully he gets, you know, of course, that orb of harmony onto him. It's going to be between him and along with D-Cod, but because it was on D-Cod that entire time, Sugar-Free goes down when he tries to go into the back.
Well, Sugar-Free was focused immediately. It's Smurf that is on full Sugar-Free duty. He is a bastion of refined cane sugar as far as GGA is concerned. And as a result, GGA going to very easily take this first fight. And more importantly, Gray's about to have an EMP up.
And this is what we expect out of Sombra's on first point of Route 66. They should just have their ultimate and take a look. Gray, once again, just focusing Dogman the entire time. And that's what he's going to continue to do as this moves forward. That Sombra with the EMP, he's going to go ahead into the back. There it is. They jump on in, instantly focus down Sugar-Free. And with Fisher taking out next, that is it.
Surprisingly, Dogman is the one person to not die in that entire exchange. The EMP used more as a general use, and it's more than enough for GGA, right? Where they convert off the EMP, and this is the power of Sombra Ulticami. They have everything else up.
Well, with Sombra, you're basically looking to shut down the biggest threats, right? And a lot of times the biggest threats are, of course, going to DPS or the tank or the off tanks. So if you catch the Genji, if you catch the Winston and the D.Va, and they can't run away, well, they're all going to die.
Meanwhile, all the ultimates are up here again. Open up the Dragon, follow up with the self-destruct. D-Cod nowhere to go. Didn't get the support he wanted. I think he thought Sugar-Free was there, but Sugar-Free was on the other side. He picks off 2, and despite the enormous advantage GGA had, LNL off the play of Sugar-Free might now be taking this where, look, he has the blade in reserve, deflects onto Hanzo, still holds on to the blade, but now under fire from all ends. Maybe he should have pulled it out as Fisher takes him down from the outskirts, and GGA starts to reestablish.
And Track has swapped off onto, is on that Tracer now, but he's so low. Again, the zone control of the Sombra just allows him to have all the health packs, so he can't take his usual routes, right? Maybe he wanted to go to the Mega underneath Big Earls or go over for the Mini by the Chasm, but he can't, because, well, those aren't viable options for him because he's not going to get any health there. So Gray is just having such a huge effect on this match just by being on the Sombra.
Also Fisher with a cloak of invisibility, but not for any longer. Sugar-Free finally says, I see you, no magic spells required. Easily dispatches Fisher, but the problem is he couldn't sit there and secure the kill. Aid's going to bring him back up, and Gray catches Sugar-Free on the other side. And as a result, GGA now going to have an EMP loaded for the next fight.
And this might be the final fight. LNL, they're down to 45 seconds if they're going to wipe, they need to wipe quickly to have another opportunity to try and just touch the point. But take a look. Gray now lurking, ready for that EMP. He's been spotted out by Decon.
Decon finds him, but Gray doesn't care. Gets enough in the tunnel, drops the EMP. Under real assault here underneath. GGA needs to be flooding in to help him in the moment. They don't pick off anyone early on. And actually, LNL, they survive long enough, but it's going to be Vol that is the cleanup GGA is required. Keller gets a little bit cleanup towards the opposite end, and GGA going the hold. Not super clean, but it's enough.
Ajax brings Dogman back into this so he can transcend to try and stall this out even longer. So they will have an opportunity. It's going to be 5 members to be able to touch the point, but Gray now in the back. He's going to look for an individual hack here. It goes onto the Mercy now, and so he's going to try to focus him down, but he's got the pocket of that Zenyatta now. Sugar Free with the blade is able to take out Fisher onto the second sniper. It takes 3 swipes, but he takes him out. Ooh. No one's on the point. And with that, LNL are held just before first.
And fairness before people lose their mind and go, oh my God, stand the point. Don't think it would have mattered. Sugar Free still had to commit onto the back line, and unfortunately for him, the back line of his own team was just getting absolutely ruined by Smurf and Aid, who are having the time of their lives. And we get the full hold on Route 66. Again, Sombra probably one of the best heroes for doing that. And as a result, LNL would have to counter full hold here to have a chance of bringing the series to a 5th map. And counter full hold v counter full hold, not super common. It has happened. The Beat Invitational actually had the most ridiculous full hold v full hold I've ever seen in Overwatch history and probably ever will see. But that was powered by the GOATS composition, which neither team is running here.
That was... I remember seeing that. It was just absolutely absurd. But yeah, LNL now. They're going to go for a very taken composition here, right? They've got Decon on the Reinhardt, Sugar Free, of course, on the Zarya, and we can see he's pretty good on the Zarya himself, and next on the Brigitte. To fuel all that, of course, they've got the AoE heals of Dogman on the Moira and Ajax on the Lucio. Their primary source of damage is going to be Track on the Widowmaker.
Truly, for LNL here, it would be a ridiculous showing if they were able to hold. Got Sugar Free here on the Zen. So, I mean, they are running something that is pretty tanky that could capture maybe a little bit of the ideal of a GOAT-style composition. But GGA, they pretty well prepped and how to deal with compositions like this. And I also think it's just as likely that Track ends up taking an arrow to the head early on, and then it's not even a fight, right? So this is going to be very tough for LNL.
So, dive composition coming out from GG Esports as Fisher is going to be on the Hanzo, but Keller taking up the mantle of the Tracer here for his team. Never mind, it's full dive as Fisher swaps over to the Genji. And why not? You just need that one good team fight. LNL try to go for a cheeky play here, hiding underneath, and they speed on out, but it's Ajax. That's the first victim of this fight.
Ajax, without a team, said, oh, I've run into Tracer, what have I done? And GGEA picking up the scraps right now. LNL, they went for the full train wreck, and the only thing getting wrecked is themselves. They got back up in a hurry, but they don't have much to give.
And now things are going to get absolutely dicey here. They need a full reset. They cannot lose anyone. They cannot get any more staggered. So they're going to be waiting behind the blast doors there. Fisher is on the hunt for more. So it might just come down to this final fight. GG Esports looking to take the 3-1 over LNL.
GGA well positioned to take the series. LNL on a whim and a prayer. You have Dogman off doing a little bit of assaulting, and now they're making their stand, but Dogman too far out, punished by Gray, and Smurf gets into the fray of things. Smurf, he was able to get out. He was so low. Now he's fine. They get to loop around Gray. Hug your neighbor here on the payload. The Transcendence, just too much power for LNL to deal with. Ajax ripped right off the wall. And GGA will be easily bringing this one forward. We got LNL with a last gasp effort here, but it's just not gonna be enough.
Yeah, Dogman was the first to go down. Now he might be the last to go down. Now Sugar Free will be. And with that Dragon Strike, with that last elimination onto DCOD, it's gonna be GG Esports taking the 3-1 victory up against LNL.
What happened there? We thought that LNL was doing so well. Sugar Free came in, the morale was high, and then just...
Gray is very good at Sombra.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that happen, right? First, you have the disconnect, and you have to play the 6v5. So Morale starts tanking, and then Gray's Sombra gets in your face, and you get full held on Route 66, and that's where you just completely run out of gas.
I feel like morale can't be underestimated when it comes to playing a team game, because you can be talented, you can be skilled, you can be amazing, you could be communicating, but once your spirits get crushed, it's hard to come back.
Tilt can be the greatest, equalizer. So it is a factor. It does happen. And, I don't fault LNL for what happened today. It was very unfortunate circumstances, but they tried their best to play through it.
Well, the other thing I'd say there, too, is that Route 66 is a map that does tend to favor more well-coached teams and also certainly favor the hero pool of GGA more. So I think it would be a bit of a fallacy to just kind of go in and be like, LNL is purely the last map. I think it discredits how good GGA is likely to be on this map in the season, given that they just have tools that a lot of other teams don't have for Route 66.
Yeah, and they pulled off a very well done full hold. It was very beautiful to see, and it stopped further, closer than I actually thought it might have. I thought maybe it would get a little bit closer to the door, but can we go into that a little bit more, like the logistics of how such a strong hold happened?
Well, it's ult economy, right? The power of Sombra is that an EMP is pretty decisive if you hit people, especially if they're all together going through a tunnel or rounding a corner, and you use an EMP and everyone else gets to save their ults. It's very powerful for you going into the next fight, and GGA actually needed all of that and more for the fight after the first EMP because they used everything and barely won. So they had that edge in ult economy. And overall, just for Sugar Free, who does a lot of freelancing, right, on a Genji, not being able to use health packs in the back and be evasive and take advantage of that healing in the backline makes you more reliant on the rest of your team, ruins as much as you would like to do for being as aggressive in the backline. So I actually think the health pack hacking of Gray actually hurts part of what lets Sugar Free be so crazy when he's off doing his own thing.
And then, we're no strangers to counter full holds coming out, especially here on Route 66. There have been some nuts ones in the past, but it's just really unfortunate what happened to LNL's Gambit there, right? They try to hold in that Mega Health Pack room and try to surprise them by speed boosting out, but then from there, once they speed boosted out, it looked like they didn't quite know what to do because they weren't able to get onto a target. And so, they just jump on out. They go ahead and lose Ajax, and Ajax is not a member you want to lose, especially because, well, he needs to wait out until he has another amp it up, right? He had just used his speed boost, so he needs another 12 seconds to be able to get an amp it up, and he never did. And so from there, it just completely snowballs out of control, and they can't do anything on the defense. When they get back into it, they hurry it. When they try to go for the retake, they hurry it, where Dogman puts himself into a very vulnerable position, and because he's scrambling to try and get some damage off, trying to get some heals off, because he's the only one that's going to be able to get a healing ultimate up for his team. And so it was just a lot of the pressure on them at that point.
Do you think there was something that LNL could have done differently, or were the odds just stacked against them?
I mean, they would have to play in a manner where they're not hoping for Sugar Free to dive in deep and suddenly get 2 or 3 people. You have to recognize that you're dealing with a very good Sombra player. You have to be more aware of dealing with it, especially when EMP is out. I actually think Dogman was trying to play pretty aware of that, evidence being the second EMP, where EMP goes off. Usually you expect to see Dogman become Deadman because he's playing as Zenyatta, and instead he's actually like way far back. He's totally fine. It's the rest of his team that's clumped up together. They suffer the brunt of an EMP, and everyone just falls one by one.
All right. Well, we are not done with Overwatch just yet. Coming up after this break, we have Gladiators Legion versus Mayhem Academy, so you will want to stick around.